F sharp, A sharp, revisited.
Hello everyone and welcome to F sharp A sharp revisited.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
Merry Christmas! I'm wearing my Christmas jumper.
I'm not.
I'm disappointed, Nick. Very disappointed. I'm wearing my Rudolph one and it even smiles to the side like I do.
I've got my Pac-Man Christmas jumper upstairs. That will do. I wore it a few days ago.
Yeah, good enough. We're F sharp A sharp revisited, the music review podcast. I'm Joe and I'm the Grinch-without-the-redemption-arc. And with me is St. Nicholas himself.
Yeah, I'm sure by the end of the podcast, that heart of yours is just going to have gotten even smaller.
It's going to shrivel.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see. We've definitely got some interesting albums to talk about this Christmas.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say about this month. All of the albums are interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
In one way or the other.
In one way or the other.
I wouldn't all say good, but we'll my Grinch will come out later.
Yeah. For now, let's start off with the first album, which is the 1975's new one, A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships. Just following on the trend of them giving their album names just stupidly long names with stupidly long track titles. In case you didn't know, the 1975 are a British pop rock band. This is their third album. It is 15 tracks and 58 minutes long. So this album, I decided that we should look into this one because a lot of music publications have been saying album of the year. This is a fantastic album, and I've listened to songs like Chocolate by the 1975, and I don't believe that for a second because I think that. My previous experiences with the 1975 haven't been particularly positive. I think at best they are catchy, at worst they are annoying.
Okay, this is actually my first time kind of listening to the 1975, so I'm coming into this one a bit fresh, and okay,
Yeah, I've never listened to a 1975 album before, but that's because their singles have just been very off-putting to me, and I've never wanted to.
Because there are songs on this album that I would definitely describe as annoying and off-putting, but then there are also tracks on this album that I actually really like as well at the same time.
Well, the first point I've got written on my notes is that this album is 25% bad, 25% 25% good, and 25% actually fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real mishmash of quality.
Yeah.
And just straight off the bat, I actually enjoyed this album a hell of a lot more than I thought I was going to. 1975 sort of burst onto the scene with that song Chocolate a few years ago, and it was so just vapid and airy and surface level to me that I really wasn't expecting a lot of what came with this album. It's a sort of a concept album about modernity and how it's affecting how we interact with each other on a social level. Yeah. And I think that comes across well on some songs, not so well on others. Yeah. Sometimes it's very laughable the way they try and present it, and other times I'm actually quite impressed with the level of depth they present.
I agree. I think I mean one criticism I do have about this album is that, well, I like the theme that they're going with. I think it's really interesting and it can be explored really well, and on a couple of tracks it is, but then on other tracks you'd barely know that it was a theme on the album. So I would have liked a little bit more thematic consistency in it really being embedded throughout the album. But some of the tracks that do go with that theme, I think, are pretty good. I'm kind of bursting just to say what my favourite track is on the album.
Go on then.
I bet you already know which one it is.
I want you to tell me. I think I know which it is, but...
It's The Man Who Married a Robot love theme.
I wasn't actually expecting that. I thought that you were going to go with Sincerity is Scary.
I like that song. That was another favourite of mine, but The Man Who Married a Robot...
I'm still sort of on the fence with that one.
Yeah.
I think pushing more towards just putting all my skepticism aside and saying that I really like it, but there's still a little part of me that goes, oh God, what is this?
That's kind of the point though. It's funny. To me it's kind of humorous and sad at the same time. That's what I was getting from it. And paired that with actually some really great instrumentation. I really love the kind of the ambient IDM synths that go throughout the track, and the coda. There's just a really nice symphonic arrangement, something I wouldn't expect from a band that's kind of described as pop rock. There's this really actually classically lush arrangement that is kind of beautiful.
They do ambience on this album really well quite a lot of the time. There are only a few points where I think it's quite overdone and sort of overwhelming, which ambience shouldn't be. Like on songs like Learn to Draw and Petrichor to an extent, and it's just there's a few more points on the album. But for the most part, I think that as far as production goes, this album's pretty stellar. The use of electronics is generally pretty good, and it's generally better than some other instrumental parts. Like the bass on the album, I think, is a bit lacking. It's sort of there to support the other elements, and the drums for the most part as well. The only exceptions being on Petrichor has got a fantastic beat, which I think makes up for the fact I don't really care for the rest of the song. And on Mine, it's got that lovely sort of... I'm trying to remember the name of the type of drumsticks. I just think of them as being like spaghetti.
Brushes.
Brushes, that's the word. That's the word I was looking for. I love the texture that adds.
Mine was another favourite of mine, and I think because the jazziness of the track was really nice as well. I mean, it's really soothing. The jazz touches on this album, and again, it's not something you'd expect from a pop rock group. When pop rock tries to do jazz, it's usually very surface level. It's very much usually just, we'll just throw a saxophone over the top. But here, there are actually some really nice harmonic touches. There's another track that has some more kind of improvised sounding brass arrangement, and they pull off these sounds really well when they want to. Yeah, and I think as well as the depth of styles they have in this album, I think there's also some of the pop tracks they do, the more just straightforward tracks, are actually just really good pop songs. Like It's Not Living If It's Not With You, which is one of my favourites on the album. I think it's just a fantastic... It's a fun time. Upbeat pop song about heroin addiction. Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind, one of those songs which sounds immensely happy over the top, but underneath is quite depressing, though. It does end on a happier note. And they do that quite a lot. I think there are quite a lot of points where they have upbeat instrumentation with sort of either sort of anxious or quite downbeat lyricism. Like Give Yourself a Try was another good point. I use Give Yourself a Try as a sort of comparison between the album at its social commentary best and its social commentary worst, because I took the lyrics from two different tracks to compare them. So on Give Yourself a Try, you've got a verse which goes, "And what would you say to your younger self? Growing a beard's quite hard and whiskey never starts to taste nice. And you'll make a lot of money, and it's funny because you'll move somewhere sunny and get addicted to drugs and spend obscene amounts on fucking seeds and beans online." I think that flows really well as a verse and just hits straight to the point. And then you compare that with I Like America and America Likes Me, which is my least favourite track on the album by quite a way, which has... there's supposed to be a statement on gun control in America, I believe, which has... Is that designer? Is that on fire? Am I a liar? Oh, will this help me lay down? My skin is fire. It's so desired. No gun required. Oh, will this help me lay down? I'm scared of dying. It's fine. Oh, what's a fiver? Being young in the city, believe and say something. It just feels really messy to me. It's messy, and I came up with the words when going through some of the lyrics of this album. Very overview is how I describe some of the political commentary. And what I mean by that is... It's more or less, sometimes artists just feel like if they're just stating something, they're actually making a comment about it when actually they're really not. And there are several tracks here where... I know one of them that you're going to mention, and it's my favourite track on the album. Go on. I think that Love It If We Made It is the best track on the album. Okay. Okay. Well, that was one I was going to highlight for that lyrical... and I completely understand what you mean. Because I thought that the first time I listened to it, but actually the more I listen to it, and it reads like the cover of America by 30 Seconds to Mars. Okay, my 1 out of 10 that I gave. But I think it succeeds because it makes all those topics sound completely united. It exudes a sort of hope and positivity amongst its ridiculously vast coverage of modern trending topics, just simply through its conviction, I think. That's the yell of modernity has failed us. I think it really
works because, I mean, we like to mock people who try to aptly sum up the feelings of this entire generation that I guess Matt Healy is a part of, but it really is quite as simple as that. And the way he shouts it at the end of every verse, I think really just it resonates, and that's paired with the fact that it's, for me, the vocal performance on the album. It's the highlight for him. It's urgent and anxious and passionate, and I get, like, to say the bridge, he's just pretty much listing off a variety of
okay, that's what made me laugh. Consultation, degradation, fossil fueling, masturbation.
But then I like the bit the straight after that where he's sort of saying that in a sort of lower register, and then he just full on yells. I can't remember the exact line. I came on like a bitch or something like that. Almost as if those previous topics he's discussing aren't anything compared to this monster we have in the White House at the moment, as he just goes into this full-on tirade against Trump, which I think works really well. And I love the composition that he's singing over. It just sounds really anxious, and I think it just captures the mood perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that song a lot.
Okay, fair enough. I think we've highlighted quite a few tracks that we do like. How about some tracks that we
I'm going to talk about one now that I don't like but also really like at the same time, because I think Give Yourself a Try could have been one of my favourite songs of the year, but that guitar line in it, which is ridiculously highly mixed, really overbearing is what I mean, and just continues the same, what is it, 3 notes? For the entire song. There's like, I think 2 bars where it sort of goes down and then comes back, and it just goes for the entire song. And if that wasn't there, or if they found something more interesting to do with it, I think that would be a fantastic song, but it's not.
I think I got that song a bit more than you did. I thought it was catchy enough to last the song.
If I can ignore the guitar, then I love that song.
Yeah.
But yeah, songs that we don't like.
Okay, opening track, the 1975. It starts off with this jazzy piano, and then it has this massive overblown vocoder auto-tune blast of sound that to me just sounds horrible.
Something I didn't realise is that looking back at their other 2 albums, they had actually started every single album with a track called the 1975, which has the exact same vocals and vocal melody, but it's mixed and stylised in a different way. And of the 3, this is by far the weakest. The other ones actually feel like good build-ups to the rest of the album. I mean, I've only listened to the songs by themselves, but they actually sound like good intro tracks, whereas this feels a bit shit.
It just feels tacky. I mean, there are other moments of auto-tune in this album, but they're nowhere near as bad as that opening track, which to me was really off-putting, and I'm really glad a track that I did like came straight after it. To me, Give Yourself a Try is like the real opener of the album.
I agree.
I think there are actually several tracks towards the end of the album that to me more so felt redundant rather than I didn't like. I Couldn't Be More in Love, I think. To me, it just felt like another ballad we've had.
It's fine.
When the album is nearly an hour long, it's 15 tracks. You kind of think to yourself,
easily have cut that one.
You can cut that one out. The same with Surrounded by Heads and Bodies. Another
I think
softer
that one's just
points.
a bit redundant lyrically.
Yeah. I didn't really get much from the lyrics, and it has some nice soft guitar and synths, but there are other tracks earlier on in the album that make use of that kind of.
Be My Mistake, I think, is a far better sort of softer guitar.
Have we mentioned that one yet? Because that was another favourite of mine.
No, we haven't. I like that one a lot. I think it's pretty heartbreaking.
It's I mean, the lyrics are just kind of loveliness, really. It's really sentimental, and I really like the arrangement as well. Just a nice acoustic guitar with the lullaby synths,
and it's one where the ambience isn't completely overdone, like on I've forgotten the name of the song you just mentioned. I haven't written about it because I just didn't care for it.
Yeah, Surrounded by Heads and Bodies.
That one,
and then, and then Inside Your Mind as well. Oh
god, I don't like that one. That's another one where I think the guitar melody just ruins it. That do 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 do
saccharine. It's so saccharine because it starts off with this piano which sounds very Journey-ish.
It's also got the line in it, the back of your head is at the front of my mind, which is just cringeworthy.
So yeah, those are a couple of no tracks from me.
The only other one I will mention as not particularly liking it is Two Time.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be an upbeat and fun look at unfaithfulness in the modern age, I guess, but it just comes across like Matt Healy has absolutely no clue.
Or no morals. It's just like, oh, casual flirting, who cares?
It's repetitive and it's not very fun and it's pretty annoying.
Yeah,
it
is one of those annoying tracks, really. I mean, luckily, it kind of the few tracks after that get a bit better, so I find it quite easy to ignore in like the context of the album. But again, it's one of those, you could have cut it.
Yeah,
you could have cut it. You could have cut the 5 tracks we've mentioned as being not so good.
Well, Two Time was actually one of their singles, which is weird to me. Weird choice. Give Yourself a Try, I think, was the first single they released. So I think that's a decent shout for a single. Yeah. I'd just like to mention, by the way, Love It If We Made It actually made it to number 1 on Pitchfork's top 100 tracks of this year.
Huh. Okay. I mean, it's a good song, but... okay.
Found that quite odd. I think It's Not Living If It's Not With You was also in that list somewhere. But there are, like we said, there are really good tracks on this album, far better than I would ever have expected. It's just, there are quite a few bad ones as well.
Yeah, they really needed to slim it down, cut the fat, really get the thematic consistency just right, and then they could have been on for a real winner in this album. I kind of would recommend kind of checking out the better tracks, really.
Yeah, I've been listening to this album quite a lot, actually, and just skipping the tracks that I don't care about, and it makes it about 35 minutes long, and a better listen for it.
And I tell you what, The Man Who Married a Robot is going to be on my end of year list for best songs, because I just love how it makes me laugh and it makes me sad at the same time, and I think the music is gorgeous.
He said, "Man does not live by bread alone," and then he died.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone just listen to that track and enjoy.
I think don't just listen to that track. Listen to it in the context of the album, otherwise it won't be anywhere near as impactful, I don't think.
True.
I would give this album a 6 out of 10.
I'm veering towards a 7 out of 10. I think that's more so because when there are things that I like so much about the album, I do want to be a bit more generous with it. I think ignoring the bad tracks on the album is quite easy for me, so I'm going to go with a light 7.
That's fair enough. I mean, it could go up to a 7 for me when I listen to some of the tracks again, because, I mean, like I said, It's Not Living If It's Not With You, I Love It If We Made It, Sincerity Is Scary. All tracks like that, I think they're pretty great.
They're pretty top notch.
Let's move on. It's Christmas time, guys. So we're going to cover the only Christmas album that I've noticed came out.
I've noticed. Apparently, I heard that Elton John made a Christmas album, but I haven't listened to it. I don't think I'm going to.
I didn't notice that at all.
Neither did I. I only heard about it yesterday.
But, I mean, there were no Anton de Becks or Bradley Walshes or Alexander Armstrongs this year.
I really enjoyed making fun of them all last year.
I think we were spoilt last year.
We were.
Absolutely spoiled. So instead, this year we've got Tyler the Creator.
Yes.
With music inspired by Illumination and Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, which I still think it is absolutely hilarious that Tyler the Creator contributed songs to Illumination's The Grinch film. And anyway, neither of those songs appear on this EP. This is an EP based off Tyler's input into the Grinch film. It's 6 songs and 10 minutes long, so it's a very brief listen.
Short EP, yeah.
Yeah. It's mostly pleasant, but it's also pretty underwhelming.
I'm going to agree with that.
I mean, there's some good points, but also quite a few points I don't really care for.
Okay, well, I'll go for the tracks that I did like. I liked Hot Chocolate. Oh, Nick's face.
It's not the worst on the album.
It's cheesy. I get it's cheesy, but also it's a Christmas album. You got to expect a little bit of cheese. I quite liked the lyrics just about drinking hot chocolate and being cozy.
That's my problem with this album, though, is that it doesn't feel Christmassy to me. I mean, it really fails at being a Christmas album, which I think it has to be when it's inspired by a story which is set and sort of about Christmas. Either with it being inspired by the Grinch, it had to be completely anti-Christmas, with songs like Big Bag, sort of are, or it had to have a really sort of an essence of Christmas about the entire thing, which I just don't think it does. There's a few allusions to winter does not a Christmas album make.
Okay. I see your point kind of lyrically on some of the tracks. I do think instrumentally there is kind of a Christmas vibe in the album. There's like piano and bells
I got
stuff.
that on a couple of tracks. I mean, on I think Whoville sort of captures that quite well. Actually, I think that's about it.
Well, I think they kind of did that on Hot Chocolate as well. That was one of my favourite tracks. The other favourite of mine was Big Bag, which, as you said, was more of an anti-Christmas kind of...
Big Bag is actually the only one where I think I noticed that Tyler was rapping on it.
Yeah, it's the only rap song,
He does rap on some of the other tracks, but it just doesn't feel like he's got a distinct style to it to suggest that he produced it. I was only aware that he raps on other songs on the album halfway through making the notes, at the point where I put a note saying he only raps on Big Bag, and then I listened back and went, oh, actually he doesn't. Oh, I completely didn't notice that.
I see your point. I'm just going to chip in finally on Big Bag and say that I really enjoyed his comparing the Grinch to himself and the kind of arc he goes on to the Grinch. I just thought that works really well. I don't identify myself. I don't get the redemption arc, but but yeah, I thought that was pretty nice.
Yes, I mean, I'll say Hot Chocolate sounds somewhat like the songs he actually wrote that ended up in the film. But besides, I guess, that and references to Cindy Lou and Whoville, the whole thing just doesn't feel very Grinchy. It does feel a bit like he was forced to make this album, which I know he wasn't. But it does. Yeah. It feels like Illumination is sort of pulling the strings on this one.
It feels like a pet project where Tyler really wasn't putting a lot of stock in it. If you know, I mean, I'm sure he enjoyed making it and all of that, but it's not the kind of thing. I doubt he was thinking this is like a career-defining move in any way.
If anything, I guess it's just sort of to tide people over until he releases his next album.
Yeah, probably.
Which hopefully will come soon. I want another Tyler album to see whether he's going to mature even more than on Flower Boy.
Yeah. We'll see.
As it is, I mean, it's perfectly pleasant to listen to for 6 tracks in 10 minutes. It's over really quickly, and you probably won't even remember you listened to most of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'd give this a 4 out of 10.
I find it difficult to rate albums that are this short. I'm going to give it if you're feeling in the Christmas spirit, give it a try out of 10.
Right, let's move on to something. We've done the Christmas. That's enough of that nonsense. Let's move on to something which is definitely not Christmassy. Earl Sweatshirt.
Earl Sweatshirt.
With his new album, Some Rap Songs.
Yes.
This is the 3rd album from rapper Earl Sweatshirt. He's previously of Odd Future fame. And this is 15 tracks as well, like the 1975 album, except this one is less than half the length.
Yeah, 23 or
24 minutes.
24 minutes. I feel like this is where we're going to disagree, Nick.
Okay.
On this album. I did not like this album at all.
I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, though I still think there are sort of good points on it.
Okay.
So I probably will like this more than you, but I see it getting a lot of really good reviews.
Well, that's what I was saying. And I read some of the reviews, and I just didn't identify with what they were saying on this album. I'm going to kind of get one point out the way, because I don't like talking about production too much, but I found this album was just brick-walled from start to finish, and because the 24 tracks, they don't have any gaps between them, for me it was a headache to sit through every single time.
I've never heard that phrase before, brick-walled.
But it's brick-walled when audio is mastered kind of too loudly, and it's just...
That's something I picked up that no one else picked up, which is that for an album, I mean, the beats on this album are all very repetitive, and I think that's meant to complement Earl's sort of stream of consciousness rapping, so that the album is meant to be more about his rapping than anything else. But his vocals are generally mixed below the production.
I found that as well.
I don't understand why.
There were several tracks where, unless I was looking at the lyrics, I'm not hearing what Earl's saying at all. So that was another thing.
I'd like to get my positives out the way, first of all, because I actually think the final 3 tracks on the album, Playing Possum, Peanut and Riot, are pretty much perfect, and it's just a shame that they're right at the end of the album after everything else, because I think this album was meant to be released, as a bit of context, quite a bit earlier this year, I think, and it was meant to be a way for Earl, his actual name is Tebe, to reconnect with his father, who was estranged from since his parents split up when he was quite young. And his father actually died in December last year, a month before the album was meant to be released. And that sent Earl into an incredibly dark place. He cancelled tours and went into social reclusion.
Yeah.
So on Playing Possum, it's made up of samples of Earl's parents, with his mother reciting a keynote speech and his father reciting a poem that he wrote, almost as if they're in conversation. I think it's actually definitely the most powerful point on the album, with one of the best beats, and it fits with the title, where Earl is playing possum by not facing the past and rapping on this track, and rather just letting his parents embody what he wants to portray. And that leads into Peanut, in which it's an incredibly intense beat, plays straight off the previous track, as Earl finally confronts his relationship with his father and how it affected his psyche. And this was one of the 2 tracks that was written after his father's death. So it references plenty to the struggles that his father's death caused. And then that track ends with the line, "My Uncle Hugh," which is a reference to a good friend of his father who also died, I think about a month after his father died. And there are so many tributes and shouts out to people in this album, and that leads into the final track, Riot, which is a well-fitting tribute to finish this album off, because Hugh Masekela, who was a jazz musician, this is pretty much made entirely of a sample of one of his tracks, and it's one of the only upbeat points on the album, and the way it ends after these 2 quite intense tracks is a surprisingly triumphant and uplifting closer that sort of suggests Earl is recovering. And I could read just so much out of those 3 tracks that only come up to about 4 minutes in total between the 3 of them, that I was very impressed. But that is definitely the best part of the album for me, because there's quite a lot of the rest of the album I just switch off for.
I switch off for so much of this album.
If it was just those 3 tracks by itself and released just as a single with the 3 combined, I would think, wow, Song of the Year, potentially. But it comes after 20 minutes of a few ups and a lot of downs.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well say the tracks that I did like. Nowhere to Go.
That's one of my favourites.
That was, I really liked the backing to that track. Really nice glitchy electronic elements working really nicely.
Yeah, it's where the themes of depression come in full force on that one. And
it also had my favourite line on the album. Noose on my chain is gold, which I thought was a really nice piece of imagery. So yeah, it was one of my favourites. I just to piggyback off that point, I'll say one of my main criticisms of this album. As I was reading through his lyrics, I really couldn't find any notable.
Yeah, I haven't made notes of any of them. I think that because it's such a sort of stream of consciousness flow and delivery, the lyrics are they just feel a bit disconnected to me. So you can read out single lines like you just did, but I don't think there are that many on the album which you just go, oh, that's fantastic. I feel like a lot of the time raps have to join up with other lines to make a coherent and hard-hitting point. But
yeah, I do feel like I was very messy. Like I've written down some lyrics. I just plucked one of the songs, On the Way, and these lyrics, I'll just read them out. Because I don't label the bags, I stay in them. See you shooting, but your angles is trash. Don't play with us, I revisit the past. Port wine and pages of pads. Mama say, don't play with them scabs. It's safe to say I see the reason I'm bleeding out. I need you now. Closed lips make the mouth breathers frown. And I'm thinking to myself, I can see good ideas in them, but at the same time, there's no logic, there's no kind of reason for them being placed next to each other from what I can see. They're very disorientated, and to me it just made it very difficult to kind of grasp onto just the song itself. So that was kind of a criticism throughout the album for me.
I didn't like the bends.
I hated the bends.
I thought that vocal sample that he uses is just a horrible.
Yeah. For most of the album, I really didn't like a lot of the instrumentation. Half the time it was either kind of very dull, uncharacteristic, and at other times it was annoying. Like you said, the bends. I've literally written down, what the hell is this super annoying vocal sample? That is my only note on the song. And then there was another one earlier on, Shattered Dreams, also has this vocal sample which starts out fine, but then having it continue throughout the whole song, and it's only 2 minutes, but by like the minute mark it was this kind of dreams that gets super loud in the mix, just really grated on me.
I think that the instrumentals, the fact that they're quite abstract and lo-fi, and I think if they were mixed better and had a little more variation in them. I get that they're supposed to be repetitive to sort of just back up and flavour Earl's stream of consciousness delivery, but I just found myself wanting more.
For me, I didn't find I wanted more. I wanted something different.
That's what personally. I mean. I want more variety.
Because I feel like he just it kind of felt like he just plucked anything out of thin air to sample. To me, it just felt like he didn't put much thought into, okay, this sounds particularly catchy here, this sounds particularly insert any mood here. It just let a lot of the album down.
I like the way he chops up his samples and makes it so they sort of come in and out and feel disjointed, because I guess that fits with some of the themes on this album.
Yeah. In fact, I would say that worked on the song Lucy. That had a dirty backing and I liked it. So yeah.
I've only got one more track I want to mention as being a favourite, which is Azúcar, which I believe means sugar. It's one of the more emotional deliveries by Earl on the album, and it's one of the ones where the lines actually each line seemed to have some sort of emotional significance to me. The backing is dense and dreamy and chopped really well to lend weight to Earl's raps. And I mean, I like the shout out to Mac Miller on that track with the Oy vey line. I think it works well. I liked it more than you did. I could listen to it for 24 minutes and it didn't give me a headache.
Score?
Which is, it's kind of sad to say I want more when this is clearly an album where Earl is not having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I would give it a 6, and by the fact I'm giving it a 6, I'm going to give the 1975 a 7, because I definitely think that's a better album.
In terms of how much I enjoyed it, it's a 3, which I kind of feel bad about, because I can see that he does put effort into...
It's Christmas, Joe. Give it a 4.
Actually, I'm a Grinch. I'm giving it a 3. I have no redemption arc.
Oh, Joe, that's not nice.
I am not nice.
I think you need some Christmas spirit in your bones. So I'm going to take us aside from the world of reviewing things for a minute, and I'm going to put some Christmas cheer into your bones because I wrote a Christmas song.
Ooh, okay.
I wrote a Christmas song because I've every year for the past 4 years, I think it's 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, one of those years, it's custom at Christmas that I will go up to Sheffield with my family and we will spend Christmas Day with my god family and my grandparents because they have a nice house. Yeah. And they cook and we bring the turkey and we play games and play music. And I've never gotten my god family a present before, and I felt quite bad about that, so I wrote them a song.
Ah, that's so nice.
And I'm going to premiere it here on the podcast because I know for certain that they don't listen to it. So
okay.
I'm going to play this Christmas song that I wrote. It is about socks and love and being lonely at Christmas, and it is called Socks. And I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, we'll see if my heart grows at all.
3 Christmases ago, I brought you socks, because the only socks you owned were full of holes. And as I cuddled my gift up in Poundland paper and a bow, outside it began to snow. Just before the critters bought the snow, a skinny Father Christmas lay in bed wondering whether socks were apropos, as holy socks may prove fitting on Christmas Day and feet so prone to cold. Till the sunrise, only God could know. Oh well, I wish it could be Christmas every day, and every night more socks I'd wrap for you, because no odd sock should ever stay that way, when there's potential for one to become two. And what's a better time to bring people together, to pair out socks in merriment and cheer? And so I give united socks to you for Christmas, and hope they'll last you through the new year. About 2 Christmases ago, I brought you socks, as the others lasted only till April. But when you gazed upon them, the Christmas lights in your house threatened to explode, from how bright your smile glowed. As 9 reindeer departed the grotto, a love-struck Father Christmas lay wishing his bed left him feeling less alone. Socks soon filled the empty space, makeshift human warmth just not his own. Winter cold frozen to the bones. Oh well, I wish it could be Christmas every day, and every night more socks I'd wrap for you, because no odd sock should ever stay that way, when there's potential for one to become two. And what's a better time to bring people together, to pair out socks in merriment and cheer? So I give united socks to you for Christmas, and hope they'll last you through new night's need, permeate loneliness I can't beat, and walk for 7 blocks down LED Street, knock on your door in time with my heartbeat, and you'll live. With those socks so ago, I gave you socks filled with presents that hung on the bedpost. A happy Father Christmas saw that smile on your face start to glow, and never again felt alone.
Well, I have to say, I think my heart grew 6 times the size.
And the people of Whoville never had to fear the Grinch again.
I think I need to retract everything I've said throughout the podcast. Earl Sweatshirt gets a 9 out of 10. The 1975 might just get the 10 out of 10 at the end of the year, I'll have to see. And Tyler, the Creator, an 8. All amazing albums. And of course, what an amazing sentimental song.
I wish I wasn't lonely at Christmas. That's for discussion another time.
Yeah.
Or never. Or never's good. Thank you for your comments. I played that to my mom and she cried, which is the ultimate seal of approval.
I mean, a Christmassy folky song is like the ultimate tearjerker.
I'm sure that in the future it will be played on Absolute Radio.
Yeah, I feel it would be the best thing on Absolute Radio if that was the case.
Well, that's enough being Christmassy. Let's talk about something which, again, isn't very Christmassy.
It isn't very Christmassy.
You wanted to do this one.
Yeah. So Lubomyr Melnyk has released an album. Those of you who don't know, which I'm guessing is a lot of people.
Everyone knows old Lubo.
Yeah. He is a post-minimalism modern classical composer. I saw that he had a new album out and I thought, there's a genre that we don't talk about at all.
Yeah. Ever.
Probably for good reason, but I thought, might as well. Why not? I'm into the Christmas spirit now. I'm in the spirit for doing things, and we're going to talk about this album. We're going to try and talk about this album.
Yeah, Fallen Trees. So Lubomyr Melnyk, I'd literally never heard of before in my life. Didn't even know what instruments would be on this thing. So he's clearly a highly skilled pianist.
Yes.
And I think that the cello parts and the vocal parts that come in on it from I can't pronounce her name, Japanese artist Hattis Noit, and America David Allred. Their contributions on vocals and cello are great.
Yes.
And besides that, I don't really like this album. I think that having looked into a bit of the context of it, about it being I think it's supposed to be the supposed story of fallen trees he witnessed while on a train journey, and it's meant to contrast, the mechanical nature of the train and the spirits in the trees and all that. Didn't come through in any way in the tracks for me. It literally only came through in the song titles.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that point.
I also think that when you place, because his style of piano playing is just incessant, non-stop, repetitive, just notes, as many notes as you can possibly imagine there ever being in an album. They are there, and because he plays them in this repetitive and incessant manner, when you're listening, at least through headphones, you start to pick up maybe a group of 3 or 4 notes in a passage that repeat, that are in maybe the upper register or the lower register, that contrast against the other notes, and then you hear just those notes in isolation. So it'll be just like da-da-da, 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 da-da-da coming through, and in isolation they sound so bad so bad it makes me angry.
You saying that makes me think that post-minimalism just isn't your genre, Nick.
But that's the
because
thing.
that's
I
mean,
I don't know whether you'd put this in the same genre, but I think that Steve Reich's music for 18 musicians is an absolutely fantastic piece of work.
Yeah, it kind of is the same genre. I mean, they're stylistically different, I would say, but yeah.
I guess I don't like piano-led.
You don't like piano-led because the kind of the point with this kind of music is picking up these subtle changes that happen within every passage, and how those subtle changes affects the overall mood and story of the piece.
Yes, I didn't find the changes in it particularly subtle, because I was listening out to them and then just suddenly it felt jarring every time it moved from one thing to another. Like, say he'd take off the sustain pedal
Yes.
on his piano, and suddenly it would be more staccato, and I'd go, I don't like that.
You didn't think that affected mood at all? It didn't affect, oh no, the trees are falling down.
I mean, no.
Okay, I kind of, because I do see your point of view on some of the tracks. I do actually thought that the final 5 tracks that run as one long song, Fallen Trees, there were a lot of moments where I felt like either it was going on for too long without variation, or the variations weren't that striking. I did actually note in the last track, all of a sudden it's staccato again, and I think that's probably the point that you picked up on. That to me felt a little bit jarring, but I actually thought towards the first half of the album is pretty strong.
I liked the first track. I thought Requiem for a Fallen Tree was the best track on the album, and I think it's because it gets to use the vocals and cellos as a sort of contrast, save it from complete monotony. And I mean, they're not exactly playing anything, lively or energetic or a stronger melody to over what he's playing on piano. But I think that just having that slight,
it has more to it.
That slight variation, and the way they all change subtly rather than just having the piano by itself, I think is where it really works.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's one of the 2 tracks that for me were more modern classical than post-minimalism, Requiem for a Fallen Tree and but how do you say that? Barcarolle.
I know exactly which one you mean. I deliberately didn't write it down so I wouldn't have to try and pronounce it.
Barcarolle, which piano solo, and it does have those minimalistic elements that I talked about a bit earlier, but also some really nice melodies as well, and the textural changes and melodic changes work really nice, and some really nice switch-ups 5 minutes in. I thoroughly enjoyed that track. And like you say, Requiem for a Fallen Tree, it has busyness within it. It's not like super lively or in your face, but it does build up the liveliness very quickly, and then it introduces those cello and the kind of quite haunting vocal aspect.
Oh, the vocals are really good.
And they're really nice. And the second track, Son of a Parasol, is one where I really enjoyed the minimalistic changes that made me feel like I was being taken on a journey. Maybe not a train journey, but when you get the slightly high notes gradually getting more and more strained and lower notes coming in and out at the same time, it has this really abstract sense of adventure that I actually really liked.
That's fair enough. I'm glad you got more out of it than I did, and I'm sure that many people, I say many people, I know people.
There are some people
definitely gotten quite a lot out of this. I've seen some reviews online which gave it strong scores. That it may just be that I'm not a person that this appeals to. That I would give this a 4 out of 10.
Fair enough. It
gets to go in the Grinch zone.
In the Grinch zone. Even though I did kind of rag on the second part of the album, there was parts in the second part of the album that I really liked as well. It was kind of more so the tracks that did involve more cello, more vocals as well, because I felt like when it was leaning to more of the modern classical side, it was getting stronger, and it didn't do the minimalism quite as well as it did in Son of a Parasol. So I'm going to give this a strong 6 to a light 7, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I quite enjoyed this album.
Yeah, one of the things was I was coming into this thinking, oh, Joe's going to adore this. He's going to call me a pleb. He's going to think less of me for not getting this album and finding faults with the fact that there are a few notes at a time. That's whatever. So I'm glad to hear that you don't think I'm wrong.
I don't think it's perfect. I fully understand people not getting this kind of music, because it's philosophically quite different to kind of normal songwriting. If you'd call it normal.
I'm sure there are things in this genre that I would probably appreciate more than this as well. Because I do get what it's going for. I don't get it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's a shame, but oh well. And that is as out of albums that have come out over the past
Out of
month or so.
albums.
Out of albums.
Oh no.
Oh no. Well, I mean, it's not all gloom and doom. This has been a shorter podcast than normal, but we're going to be back for New Year.
Oh yes.
Yes, because if you remember last year, we were doing 2 podcasts a month. We're doing one at the moment because life sucks.
Yep.
So we've decided to break that just for this time, and next week we are going to be recording and hopefully releasing shortly after the end of year podcast in which we run down the awards and decide who gets to go in the gulag.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a good one.
Someone is going to get put in the gulag.
Someone, maybe even multiple. We'll see. We'll see how.
We'll see.
You know, I did. Maybe I did get my redemption arc. Maybe I didn't.
And hopefully it will be less than 2 hours 20 minutes long, like the last one was.
My goodness. Yeah.
We
we'll
made
work on that.
Made far too many awards categories.
Yeah. We'll work on that. We'll see what we can do.
But for now, Merry Christmas to you all.
Merry Christmas.
I've been Nick.
I've been a Grinch.
He's been Joe. And you've been listening to F Sharp A Sharp Revisited.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. F Sharp. Hey Joe, postscript to the episode. You see that chair to the left of you? Pull it out.
Okay. What is this?
Merry Christmas, Joe.
I got a Christmas present. Oh, I might not be a Grinch after all after this.
Would you like to tell our listeners what you got?
It's a ukulele.
I brought Joe a ukulele.
Oh, I can make cheesy cover songs now on YouTube.
You can cover that one song by Frank Turner that sounds like a DFS advert.
Oh, bloody hell. The amount of new songs I will cover with this.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
F Sharp. A Sharp. Revisited.